Earlier this week, the Department of Energy announcing changes to its program to deploy small modular reactors aimed at boosting energy grid capacity. Joining me now in a Fox Business exclusive is the U.S. Energy Secretary, Christopher Wright. Mr. Secretary, great to have you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Maria.
Well, we got a lot to talk about, from nuclear to natural gas and the energy policy. You've got breaking news for us, though, right?
We did. We released, sort of a request for bids and proposals from developers in the United States for small modular reactors. The nuclear renaissance has been long talked about, but it just hasn't happened yet. We want to make it happen. President Trump was elected to make things happen. So one of the things we did from a previous draft was strip out the DEI language. Nuclear energy is about powering your homes and your businesses and the hospitals. It's not about politics or skin color or sex. It's about energy. So we're just bringing common sense back and want to get nuclear power going.
So you believe stripping out these DEI regulations will open up the floodgates, or at least encourage more nuclear business from the private sector?
It will. Look, there's tons of great American companies that are spending private capital to develop next-generation nuclear technologies that are small, manufacturable in factories, assembled quick on location. They're safe. Everything in the world goes wrong, and the reactors just automatically shut themselves off. So there's really some great technologies, and we just want to focus on technology and energy. I think it's just common sense.
And part of that focus is certainly on natural gas. I want to ask you about natural gas. These recent scares like Russia and the war on Ukraine, and of course Iran and its moves in terms of Israel and Hamas has prices up, with natural gas up about 27% year to date. Your thoughts on natural gas and whether or not you're seeing a demand supply situation change here?
Yeah, I mean, demand has grown a lot for natural gas. And look, prices were very low last year, so investment levels dipped down. If you look at natural gas today in oil terms, it's at like $22, $23 a barrel. That's pretty cheap energy right now. And it's the fastest growing energy source on the planet. And the U.S., as you know, when Russia invaded Ukraine and a lot of their supply was cut off to Europe, U.S. LNG filled that hole more than any other source. And we could have filled it even more if not for the Biden, quote-unquote, pause on LNG export approvals.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about Venezuela and the tariffs. But, Ms. Secretary, you're further postponing the implementation of 3 Biden-era mandates on home appliances, said to lower costs for American consumers. These delays include test procedures for central air conditioners and heat pumps, efficiency standards for walk-in coolers and freezers, efficiency standards for gas water heaters. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, these are just more nanny state, crazy top-down mandates that makes it more expensive for American consumers and businesses to buy what they want. This is the kind of stuff that got the American people animated and got President Trump elected. But think of the hot water heaters thing. What's very popular today is these tankless natural gas-powered water heaters. And why are they popular? Because they're really inexpensive. And they just heat water as you need it, using the lowest cost heating source we have, which is natural gas. So they're very popular. The Biden administration was rolling out an efficiency mandate specifically designed to make these illegal. A factory that was just built in the southeast United States was going to ramp up production of this very popular product. It was going to be out of business because their products were going to be made illegal. Just completely nuts. But yes, and we can't officially get rid of them, so we just push back the enforcement date, hopefully to never.
Well, I mean, look, you know, there are so many things to look at in terms of the poor policy, the bad policy of the Biden administration. The Biden administration would rather have, bought oil from adversaries and relied on adversaries than producing it here. Oil prices this morning are higher, and Venezuela crude oil loading at its main ports have slowed this week as President Trump is vowing a 25% tariff on any country purchasing oil and gas from the country beginning April 2nd. The Treasury also extending Chevron's wind-down license to produce oil in Venezuela until May 27th. What can you tell us about Venezuela, Mr. Secretary?
Well, what's key there is with policies now and a belief that we can invest in America, across America, and including Alaska, which was sanctioned far more than Iran or Venezuela by the Biden administration. Now that we're free to produce American energy across our country, it gives us great geopolitical leverage. If we don't like the behavior of Venezuela and our foreign policy decides, hey, we should change Venezuela's ability to export oil, we have the ability to do that without impacting prices to American consumers. So key for me is American energy makes American lives better, also makes us more secure and more strategically powerful abroad. And this Venezuela policy is just one example of that.
So what's the timing on unleashing all of this energy capacity in America? Secretary, I know this takes time. These are long-term projects. But President Trump wants to, as he always says, drill, baby, drill. And you know, he also wants to have an opportunity to be able to export natural gas, LNG to Europe and other places. I want to get your take on that because you've got low storage builds in the EU, no comprehensive ceasefire, and yet we're seeing a stability on prices. The president wants to unleash all this capacity. When will it happen? And when would you expect that the U.S. could actually export some of this LNG to Europe, for example?
Well, U.S. natural gas production is at an all-time high today, so gas production's already growing. I was down a few weeks ago at a brand new liquefied natural gas export terminal in Louisiana coming online. We've approved 4 more within the first 100 days of the Trump administration that'll be under construction soon. So, boy, our capacity to export is growing rapidly. We have pipeline exports to Mexico. Our crude exports are at all-time highs and will continue to grow. So I think we're in a good position, but I think 6 months from now, 12 months from now, even a better position. And we have a lot of states in our country that don't have the advantage of low-cost American energy, and that's because they made political choices for expensive energy. I don't think the citizens of those states realize that if you're paying very high prices, it's because the politicians in your state or surrounding states chose expensive energy policies. Yeah. So we're going to do everything we can to get low-cost energy to them as well.
Well, I mean, certainly, as you say, you know, this is an important policy and it takes time. But I guess the next question has to be about Congress. And I've asked you this before, Secretary. You know, some of these executive orders that the president has put in place could go away if another administration comes in and redoes it all, you know, redoes these executive orders and reverses them. So what do you want to see Congress do in terms of codifying some of this into law?
So permitting reform's huge. We've made it just so hard to build things in the United States. That hurts not just energy, but anything big you want to build takes years and years before you can put a shovel in the ground. So I was on the Hill yesterday, meeting with a number of members in the House of Representatives, talking about reforms to make it easier to build things. I had a bipartisan group of senators in my office yesterday afternoon talking about nuclear energy. Why don't we have more nuclear power? Why isn't the nuclear renaissance happening? What can we do to get it going? So there is a lot of things that we want to do on the legislative side as well as on the executive side and the regulatory side. It's I think, a wholesale swing back to common sense, and plenty of Democrats are being swept up in this move towards common sense as well, which is very heartening to me.
Well,
very heartening.
Yeah, you would think so. It makes sense. Secretary, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much.